Have you ever stood in the shadow of an ancient monument and felt that strange sensation, a whisper from the past, something just beyond understanding? These towering structures we've admired for centuries, from the pyramids of Giza to the intricate carvings of Angkor Wat, they hold more than just stone and history. They guard secrets, hidden messages, encoded symbols, and deliberate mysteries left behind by builders who knew future generations would come looking. Today, we're setting off on a journey to uncover 25 historical monuments that aren't just silent witnesses to history. They're active participants in an age-old conversation, waiting for us to listen. Think about it. Why would architects and artists go to such lengths to conceal symbols, bury codes within designs, or align structures with celestial events unless they intended for someone, someday, to uncover their meaning? These aren't random accidents or coincidences. They're deliberate, thoughtful acts, a way for civilizations long gone to speak across time, and what they're saying might change how we see human history altogether. This is more than an exploration. It's a global detective story, and you're invited to join the investigation. Together, we'll traverse continents and eras, decoding the cryptic language of stone and space. We'll reveal how a cathedral's floor design points to hidden treasures, how a pharaoh's tomb encodes astronomical knowledge, and how a forgotten temple's walls tell a story nobody was meant to read until now. This is about rediscovering the genius, the passion, and sometimes the defiance of those who built the impossible. So settle in and open your mind. You're about to see history's greatest monuments not as static relics, but as living puzzles, and we're just beginning to piece them together. Our journey begins with perhaps the most iconic and debated monument on Earth, the Great Pyramid of Giza. For thousands of years, this colossal structure has dominated the desert landscape, a testament to human ambition. But look beyond its sheer size and you start to see a puzzle etched in stone. The pyramid's builders achieved a level of precision that seems to defy the era in which it was constructed. Each side of the base is almost perfectly aligned with the four cardinal directions north, south, east, and west, with an error margin of just a fraction of a degree. How did an ancient civilization accomplish such a feat without modern tools like GPS or even a simple magnetic compass? This isn't just skilled labor. It's a demonstration of profound astronomical knowledge encoded into the very orientation of the building. The mysteries only deepen when we examine the pyramid's mathematical properties. The ratio of the pyramid's perimeter to its height is remarkably close to 2 times pi, the mathematical constant. This suggests the builders might have intentionally designed the structure to embody this fundamental relationship between a circle's circumference and its diameter. Furthermore, the dimensions of the king's chamber within the pyramid incorporate the golden ratio, a number often found in nature and art, symbolizing a perfect and pleasing proportion. These aren't just random numbers, they feel like a deliberate message, a way for the architects to preserve a sophisticated understanding of mathematics for future generations to discover. Perhaps the most compelling and controversial theory is the Orion correlation theory. This idea proposes that the layout of the 3 main pyramids at Giza mirrors the alignment of the 3 stars in Orion's belt as they would have appeared in the night sky around 2,500 years before the Common Era. Proponents of this theory argue that the ancient Egyptians built these monuments as a massive celestial map, directly linking the pharaoh's journey to the afterlife with the stars they revered. While this theory is hotly debated among Egyptologists, it underscores a powerful idea that the pyramid is far more than a tomb. It could be a permanent record of the sky above, frozen in stone, waiting for an age that could understand its stellar language. But the precision of the Great Pyramid extends far beyond its outer shell and into the very heart of the structure. To venture inside is to walk into a geometric and astronomical puzzle. The king's chamber, built entirely of massive granite blocks, houses a solitary object, a large, lidless granite coffer. This box is too large to have been brought in after the chamber was completed, meaning the entire room was constructed around it. Its purpose remains one of Egyptology's most enduring enigmas. Was it ever intended to hold a body? Its dimensions are curiously symbolic, with some researchers noting its internal volume correlates with ancient measurements of capacity, suggesting it might be a standard reference, a literal stone embodiment of a unit of measure left for posterity. Perhaps the most captivating features are the narrow shafts, often called air shafts, that extend from both the king's and the queen's chambers. These small, square tunnels, only about 8 inches wide, don't actually reach the outside air. Instead, they are precisely angled to point towards specific celestial bodies. The southern shaft from the king's chamber targeted the constellation Orion, associated with the god Osiris, while the northern shaft aligned with the circumpolar stars, specifically Alpha Draconis, which the ancient Egyptians saw as an imperishable, eternal region of the sky. These weren't for ventilation, they were spiritual passageways designed to symbolically direct the soul of the pharaoh directly to the stars, and the mysteries are still actively being uncovered. Modern technology continues to reveal that we may have only scratched the surface of what lies within the pyramid. In recent years, the Scan Pyramids project used non-invasive techniques like muon radiography and infrared thermography to peer deep into the stone. Their scans detected significant thermal anomalies and several previously unknown voids, including a large void above the Grand Gallery, now colloquially called the Big Void. This discovery suggests there could be entire chambers, corridors, or structural features hidden from view for millennia, their contents and purpose still completely unknown. Each new scan brings us closer to potentially the greatest archaeological discovery of our time, proving that the Great Pyramid still has profound secrets to give up. From the sun-baked sands of Egypt, we now travel to the windswept Salisbury Plain in England, where another ancient marvel has captivated humanity for millennia. Stonehenge stands as a stark, powerful silhouette against the sky, a ring of massive sarsen stones crowned with lintels. While its grandeur is obvious, its true purpose has been one of history's most enduring puzzles. For centuries, it was dismissed as a primitive Druid temple, but modern archaeology has revealed a monument of staggering complexity, a masterwork of engineering that also functioned as a sophisticated astronomical calendar. The alignment of its central axis points directly to the spot on the horizon where the sun rises on the summer solstice, the longest day of the year. On this dawn, the sun's rays shine directly into the heart of the stone circle, a spectacle that draws thousands of visitors even today. But the precision doesn't end there. The entire arrangement of stones also marks the winter solstice sunset and the movements of the moon, creating a permanent, stone-based observatory for tracking the cycles of time itself. Beyond its celestial function, the very stones used to build Stonehenge tell a story of incredible effort and belief. The giant sarsen stones, some weighing over 25 tons, were likely dragged from a site about 20 miles away. But the smaller blue stones at the center, each weighing up to 4 tons, have a far more dramatic origin. Geological analysis has proven that these distinctive spotted dolerite rocks were quarried from the Preseli Hills in Wales, over 150 miles away. Imagine the sheer will it took to transport these massive stones across such a vast distance, navigating rivers and rugged terrain, thousands of years before the invention of the wheel or modern machinery. This Herculean effort suggests these stones were far more than just building materials. They were considered sacred. Some theories propose that the blue stones were believed to possess powerful healing properties, and that Stonehenge was a destination for the sick and injured, a sort of Neolithic Lourdes where the stone's magic could cure ailments. Adding another layer to the mystery are the enigmatic carvings found on several of the sarsen stones. Etched into the hard surface are depictions of bronze daggers and a number of axe heads. These are not the random scratches of vandals, they are deliberate, carefully made symbols, For a culture that left no written records, these carvings are as close as we get to reading their thoughts. The daggers are strikingly similar in design to those found in Mycenaean Greece, dating to around the middle of the 2nd millennium before the Common Era. This has sparked fascinating theories about possible trade routes or cultural connections spanning vast distances of ancient Europe. The axe heads, often symbols of authority and power in Bronze Age societies, might represent a form of ritual symbolism or even a primitive language, a permanent record of beliefs or events that we are still striving to fully decipher. Stonehenge, therefore, is not a single mystery but a confluence of many: an astronomical calculator, a temple of healing, and a stone canvas bearing the faint, ghostly messages of its creators. Leaving the primal mystery of Stonehenge behind, we journey to the heart of classical antiquity, to a symbol of reason, order, and power that has defined Western civilization for 2,500 years, the Parthenon. Perched atop the Acropolis in Athens, this temple to the goddess Athena appears at first glance to be a monument of perfect straight lines and right angles, a triumph of logical Doric design. But that first impression is a masterful illusion. The Parthenon's true genius lies in its deliberate imperfections, a series of subtle architectural refinements engineered to trick the human eye into perceiving absolute perfection where none literally exists. Look closely and you'll discover that there is not a single straight line in the entire structure. The massive base curves ever so slightly upward in the middle, preventing it from appearing to sag under the weight of the columns. The columns themselves are not straight cylinders, they bulge gently in the middle, a technique known as entosses, which stops them from looking pinched and weak. Even more remarkably, the columns are not placed perfectly vertical. They tilt slightly inward, and if you were to extend their lines upward, they would all meet about a mile high in the sky. This incredible attention to detail wasn't just for show, it was a profound understanding of human perception. The architects Ictinos and Callicrates knew that to create a feeling of harmonious balance, they had to preemptively correct for the optical distortions that occur when the human eye views such a massive building. The Parthenon doesn't just follow mathematical rules, it follows the rules of how we see. Beyond these optical tricks, the entire structure is a love letter to mathematical proportion, most famously the golden ratio. This irrational number, approximately 1.618 to 1, appears repeatedly throughout nature and art, and the Parthenon's facade is a textbook example. The ratio of the building's width to its height and the spacing of the columns in relation to their diameter all conform to this divine proportion. It creates a sense of beauty and harmony that feels instinctively right to us, a visual language of perfection that the Athenians believed reflected the cosmic order itself. This wasn't mere decoration, it was a philosophical statement carved in marble, asserting that human reason could uncover and replicate the fundamental patterns of the universe. However, the Parthenon was far more than a mathematical exercise or an architectural marvel. It was the world's most powerful billboard, and its sculptures were the propaganda. The metopes, the square panels high on the exterior, depicted epic battles, Greeks fighting centaurs, gods vanquishing giants, Athenians triumphing over Amazons. These were not random myths. Each scene symbolized the victory of civilization over barbarism, of order over chaos, a clear metaphor for Athens' own perceived superiority over its Persian enemies. Walking around the temple, an ancient Athenian would have seen these images and understood a clear message. Our city, our culture, is the defender of reason and the pinnacle of human achievement. This narrative reaches its climax on the 500 and 5-foot-long sculptural frieze that ran around the inner sanctum. Unlike the mythological metopes, the frieze depicted a real event, the Panathenaic procession, the most important religious festival in Athens. Here, carved in intricate detail, are hundreds of Athenian citizens, young men on horseback, elders carrying olive branches, maidens offering sacred garments. This was a radical departure from tradition. For the first time, ordinary citizens were depicted on a temple, sharing space with the gods themselves. The message was revolutionary and deeply political. It proclaimed that the glory of Athens was not just the work of its patron goddess Athena, but of its people. In the height of its empire, Athens was using its greatest temple to celebrate itself, to equate its democratic ideals with divine will, and to project an image of unified, invincible power to the entire world. The Parthenon, therefore, stands as a complex triple masterpiece, a feat of optical engineering, a sermon in stone written in the language of mathematics, and a lasting monument to the ambitious, confident, and sometimes arrogant spirit that built it. Far from the ordered geometry of the Parthenon, our quest now takes us to one of the most remote and haunting locations on Earth, a windswept volcanic island in the vast expanse of the Pacific Ocean. Here, the silence is broken only by the wind, and the landscape is dominated by nearly 1,000 immense stone figures, the Moai of Easter Island. For generations, these brooding giants have been known by their most famous feature, their stern, enigmatic faces gazing stoically across the land. The prevailing assumption was that they all faced outward, perhaps watching for visitors or invaders from the sea. But that assumption is only half the story, and it obscures a far more profound and intimate truth about the people who carved them. Contrary to popular belief, the vast majority of these colossal statues do not face the ocean. They are positioned with their backs to the water, their powerful, penetrating gazes fixed intently inland, directly toward the ancient village sites of the Rapa Nui people. This deliberate orientation completely reframes their purpose. These were not sentinels looking outward, they were ancestral guardians watching over the living. Each Moai was a permanent, deified representation of a revered clan leader or important forefather. By placing them on ceremonial platforms called ahu, the islanders created a powerful spiritual landscape where the watchful eyes of the ancestors provided protection, wisdom, and a constant, tangible connection to the past. The message encoded in their placement is one of community and continuity, a silent promise that the tribe would forever be guided and guarded by those who came before. For centuries, all we could see of these giants were their heads, leading to the misconception that they were just that. However, archaeological excavations beginning in the 20th century and greatly expanded in recent decades have revealed a stunning secret: the Moai have bodies. Buried up to their shoulders in the soil that accumulated over generations, these torsos are not simple pillars. They are complete, detailed figures, many covered from head to toe in intricate, previously unknown petroglyphs carved into their backs. These aren't mere decorations, they are a complex symbolic language. Researchers have identified recurring motifs, including crescent shapes thought to represent the Polynesian canoe or vaka, a vital symbol of identity and migration. Other carvings depict fishing hooks and other maritime symbols, reinforcing a deep connection to the sea that sustained them. These hidden inscriptions transform the Moai from simple monuments into sacred tablets, their backs serving as a permanent record of the community's myths, genealogy, and core beliefs. A message meant not for outsiders, but for the descendants who would stand before them. The sophistication of the Rapa Nui culture extends even further into the heavens. While not all Moai have clear celestial alignments, several of the major ahu platforms are precisely positioned to function as astronomical observatories. The most famous Ahu Akivi features 7 Moai that are uniquely oriented to face the setting sun during the spring equinox. But their alignment is even more precise. Their gaze also directly faces the point where the Pleiades star cluster sets in the autumn, a celestial event of immense importance across Polynesian cultures that traditionally marked the beginning of the new year and the planting season. This demonstrates a sophisticated understanding of the cycles of the sky, integrating astronomy into their sacred architecture. The statues themselves become permanent markers of time, their stony eyes ensuring that the rhythms of the universe would never go unobserved by the people they protected. The true hidden message of Easter Island, then, is not one of a mysterious collapse but of incredible adaptation and resilience. The story of the Moai is a testament to a people who, in profound isolation, developed a unique and complex culture capable of quarrying, transporting, and erecting these multi-ton giants across miles of rugged terrain. The petroglyphs on their backs and their careful placement tell a story of a society deeply connected to its ancestors, its environment, and the cosmos. They were not a people who mysteriously vanished. They are the ancestors of the Rapa Nui who live on the island today. The Moai stand as eternal guardians, not of a lost civilization, but of a living one, their hidden messages finally being heard as we learn to look beyond their famous faces and understand the profound world they represent. Yet another civilization that mastered the union of earth and sky flourished far across the world in the dense jungles of the Yucatan Peninsula. Here, the Maya built Chichen Itza, a sprawling city that stands as a testament to their astronomical genius, and at its heart stands El Castillo, the castle, a pyramid that is far more than a temple. It is a precision-engineered timekeeping device, a celestial amplifier, and a physical manifestation of the Maya calendar system, all carved in stone. While its towering presence is awe-inspiring, its true magic is revealed only at specific moments when the sun and shadows align to bring a hidden message to life. Twice a year, on the spring and autumn equinox, a spectacle unfolds that seems to defy mere coincidence. As the sun sets on these days of perfect balance, the stepped corners of the pyramid cast a series of triangular shadows down the northern staircase. These interlocking shadows of light and dark slither down the balustrade, connecting at the bottom with the great stone head of the feathered serpent god Kukulkan. For a breathtaking 20 minutes or so, the illusion is perfect. A massive, undulating diamond-backed serpent appears to descend from the heavens to earth. This was no happy accident of architecture. The Maya engineers calculated the exact angle of each step and the precise orientation of the entire structure to create this effect. A public demonstration of their gods returned to the physical world to bless the soil and bring the rainy season. It was a powerful piece of theological theater, reaffirming the connection between the divine order of the cosmos and the earthly authority of the priests who could predict it. But the pyramid speaks in more than just light and shadow, it also sings. If you stand at the base of the grand staircase and clap your hands, the sound doesn't simply echo. It returns to you transformed, a sharp, chirping echo that eerily mimics the cry of the sacred Quetzal bird. This is not a random acoustic quirk. The stepped pattern of the pyramid acts like a diffraction grating for sound waves, breaking the sharp clap into a series of rapidly repeating frequencies that our ears perceive as a distinct bird call. The Quetzal, with its magnificent iridescent green feathers, was revered by the Maya as a symbol of divinity and a messenger between the gods and mankind. This clever auditory feature reinforces the pyramid's role as a sacred portal. The sound of a human handclap becomes the voice of a god, a hidden message encoded not in stone, but in the very air, designed to inspire awe and confirm the presence of the spiritual realm to all who heard it. Perhaps the most profound hidden message of El Castillo is written in the language of mathematics. The structure is a massive, three-dimensional model of the Maya calendar. The pyramid has 9 stepped terraces which are divided by a central staircase, creating 18 sections. These represent the 18 20-day months of the Maya solar year. This year, known as the Hob, totals 360 days. At the top of the pyramid sits a final, small temple, representing the 5 nameless or unlucky days known as the Wayeb, which the Maya added to complete their 365-day year. But the mathematical precision goes even deeper. Each of the 4 stairways has 91 steps. When you multiply 91 by 4, you get 364. Add the one final step up to the temple platform itself, and you arrive once again at 365, a perfect numerical representation of the solar cycle. This intricate design showcases the Mayas' obsession with time and their belief in its cyclical nature. The pyramid doesn't just track a single year, its very form is a perpetual reminder of the cosmic order. The 9 levels also correspond to the 18 levels of the Maya underworld, with the temple at the summit representing the heavens. This means that climbing the pyramid was a symbolic journey through the entire cosmos, from the depths of the underworld to the heights of the celestial realm. El Castillo is therefore a multidimensional map, a guide to time, the universe, and humanity's place within it, all waiting to be decoded by those who understand how to read its architectural language. It stands as one of history's most brilliant and interactive monuments, a machine built of stone that measures the years, calls to the gods, and for a few sacred moments each year, brings a deity to life in a cascade of shadow and light. Leaving the mathematical and astronomical wonders of the Maya behind, we travel across the globe to a monument of a completely different nature, one built not for cosmic calculation but for eternal love. The Taj Mahal, gleaming white on the banks of the Yamuna River in Agra, India, is universally recognized as a symbol of devotion. But to see it only as a beautiful tomb is to miss the profound layers of symbolism and hidden engineering genius that its creators, Mughal Emperor Shah Jahan and his army of artisans, embedded into every inch of its design. This isn't just a building, it's a meticulously crafted vision of paradise on earth, a message of loss, faith, and ultimate reunion. The most immediate and powerful message the Taj Mahal communicates is one of perfect balance and harmony, achieved through its legendary symmetry. This symmetry is not just an aesthetic choice, it is a direct representation of the Islamic concept of Jannat, or paradise. The entire complex is laid out along a central axis, with every element on one side mirrored precisely on the other. The only intentional asymmetry is Shah Jahan's own cenotaph, which was added later next to that of his beloved wife, Mumtaz Mahal, subtly breaking the perfect balance and signifying that his story and his earthly presence was an addition to her perfected memory. This flawless mirroring creates a sense of serene order and tranquility, a physical manifestation of the divine perfection and peace believed to await the faithful in the afterlife. Walking through the gardens towards the mausoleum is meant to feel like a soul's journey toward a heavenly abode, where everything is in its rightful, harmonious place. As you approach the main gateway, your eyes are drawn upward to the vast arches, framed by flowing lines of beautiful Arabic script. These are not random decorative patterns, they are meticulously chosen passages from the Quran, the holy book of Islam. The calligraphy, created by master scribe Amanat Khan, grows larger and more spaced out as it ascends. This is a brilliant optical correction, ensuring that from the viewpoint of a person standing below, every letter appears to be exactly the same size, maintaining perfect visual harmony and legibility. The verses themselves are deeply significant. They speak of the day of judgment, the rewards of the faithful, and most poignantly, a description of Allah's promise of paradise, a garden of eternity with rivers flowing beneath. The inscriptions act as a literal and spiritual frame, transitioning the visitor from the worldly gardens into the sacred space of the tomb, preparing them for the promise of divine mercy and eternal peace that the structure represents. Perhaps the most cunning hidden message of the Taj Mahal is one you cannot see, but one that has ensured its survival for centuries. Look closely at the 4 great minarets that flank the main dome. They appear to stand perfectly straight and true, a testament to the builder's skill. In reality, they are engineered with a deliberate and subtle lean, tilting ever so slightly outward. This was not a construction error, but a stroke of architectural foresight. India is a seismically active region, and the architects designed these towering pillars to fall away from the central dome in the event of a catastrophic earthquake, protecting the precious main structure from collapse. This ingenious feature transforms the minarets from mere decorative elements into functional guardians, their hidden tilt a silent promise of protection for the eternal love they surround. This combination of spiritual symbolism and practical genius elevates the Taj Mahal from a mere monument to a multi-layered text written in marble, light, and shadow. The symmetry speaks of divine order, the calligraphy recites promises of paradise, and the leaning minarets whisper a promise of earthly endurance. It is a masterpiece that operates on every level, appealing to the heart with its story of love, to the soul with its vision of heaven, and to the mind with its hidden, intelligent engineering. It stands as a perfect, unified whole, a message from a grieving emperor that has become a timeless dialogue between beauty, faith, and science. But to truly understand the hidden messages of Angkor Wat, we must step inside and run our hands along the walls of its extraordinary outer gallery. Here, the stone itself seems to come alive, not with abstract patterns, but with epic narratives carved in breathtaking bas-relief. Stretching for nearly half a mile, these intricate panels form one of the largest continuous bas-relief works in the world, a stone library depicting scenes from Hindu epics like the Ramayana and the Mahabharata. Yet these are not mere illustrations of mythology, they are a complex language of symbols and a powerful statement of divine authority. King Suryavarman II, the temple's founder, is depicted in several panels, not as a mortal man but as a god-king, leading his armies into battle and receiving the blessings of the deities. This visual propaganda served a clear purpose: to legitimize his rule by directly linking his earthly power to the cosmic order of the gods, ensuring his subjects understood that to defy the king was to defy the universe itself. Beyond the well-known myths, one of the most fascinating galleries depicts a detailed, seemingly historical naval battle on the Tonle Sap Lake, along with vivid scenes of daily life in the 12th century Khmer Empire. We see fishermen, merchants, women cooking, and even a detailed representation of a ceremony involving a massive elephant. This is an incredibly rare glimpse into the real world of the people who built this marvel, a hidden message from the past that says, "This is who we were." It's a deliberate record of their culture, their technology, and their society, preserved in stone for eternity. The artists even included a panel showing the punishment of a wrongdoer in a hellish underworld, a stark moral lesson carved into the temple walls to guide the behavior of the living. Every inch of these galleries is a multi-layered text blending religion, history, politics, and social instruction into a single, unified stone tapestry. This celestial connection is made even more explicit by the temple's most dramatic annual alignment. During the spring equinox, observers gathered in the western entrance gateway witness a phenomenon that rivals the shadow serpent of Chichen Itza. As the sun rises directly over the central lotus tower, its apex appears to precisely crown the pinnacle of the main shrine. This was not a casual observation for the Khmer people, it was a moment of profound cosmological significance. The Temple Mountain was designed to represent Mount Meru, the sacred five-peaked center of the universe in Hindu and Buddhist cosmology. The equinox alignment visually demonstrated that the king, as the representative of the gods on earth, resided at the very axis of the world, with the sun itself paying homage to his divine authority. It was a piece of architectural theater that physically manifested a spiritual truth, reinforcing the social and cosmic order for all who witnessed it. The most astonishing hidden messages, however, are encoded not in the artwork or alignments, but in the very dimensions of the temple complex. Researchers studying the layout have discovered that the measurements of Angkor Wat correspond with remarkable precision to the timescales of Hindu cosmology. The distance from the western gateway to the central tower, for instance, has been interpreted as a representation of the duration of the 4 ages of mankind, known as the yugas. This journey from the entrance to the sacred center becomes a symbolic walk through time itself, from the beginning of creation to the final spiritual liberation. Even more mind-boggling is the theory that the entire moat-enclosed complex acts as a massive-scale model of a Hindu time cycle. The length of the moat's perimeter may correspond to the number of years in the Silver Age or Treta Yuga, while other measurements appear to mirror the duration of the Bronze Age. These are not simple numbers, they are astronomical figures spanning hundreds of thousands of years. This integration of massive time cycles into the temple's blueprint suggests the Khmer builders possessed a sophisticated understanding of mathematics and a desire to embed their monument with a sense of eternal cyclical time. Angkor Wat was not built just for the present generation or even for a single dynasty. It was constructed as a permanent fixture in the cosmic order, a stone anchor in the flow of time that would endure through multiple ages of man. The temple itself becomes a clock, its measurements ticking off the seconds of eternity, a hidden message meant for those who could think in scales of time that dwarf human history. It is a breathtaking ambition to build a structure that doesn't just symbolize time, but actually embodies its vast, incomprehensible scale, making Angkor Wat one of the most profound and intellectually ambitious monuments ever conceived by human hand. Now we journey from the spiritual time cycles of Angkor Wat to the brutal, thrilling epicenter of Roman power, the Colosseum. This iconic amphitheater, with its broken circle of arches, is universally recognized as a stage for gladiatorial combat. But beneath the surface-level spectacle of violence lies a far more complex and cunning structure, an architectural machine designed to send powerful messages about social order, imperial might, and technological superiority. Every brick, every corridor, and every seat was part of a deliberate plan to reinforce the rigid hierarchy of Roman society. The experience began the moment a citizen arrived, ticket in hand, for this was a world where your social status dictated not just your view of the games, but your very path through the building. The most immediate and inescapable hidden message was carved in stone above the archways, the Roman numerals marking each entrance. These numbers were part of a brilliantly efficient crowd control system. Your ticket would specify not just your section, but the exact archway you were permitted to use. The best seats on the lowest level close to the action were reserved for the senatorial class, and they entered through their own designated, less crowded passages. The higher you rose in the seating tiers, the lower your social standing, with the uppermost wooden bleachers at the very top reserved for women, slaves, and the poor. This numbering system ensured that the different social classes rarely, if ever, mixed. A senator would never have to jostle with a common soldier. A wealthy equestrian would not share a corridor with a slave. The Colosseum was a microcosm of Rome itself, its architecture physically enforcing the empire's strict social pyramid and broadcasting a clear daily message. Everyone has their designated place, and order is maintained through rigid control. But the true engineering marvel and the source of the most astonishing spectacles lay hidden beneath the sandy floor of the arena. This was the Hypogeum, a vast, two-level subterranean world of tunnels, chambers, and cages. It was a backstage area of breathtaking complexity, a hive of activity completely concealed from the audience above until the moment of revelation. Through a system of 80 vertical shafts, elevators powered by massive counterweights and capstans manned by slaves could hoist scenery, wild animals, and even gladiators directly up through trapdoors and onto the stage. One moment the arena floor would be empty, the next, a cage full of lions would seem to magically appear from the earth itself. This technology was a deliberate demonstration of Roman engineering genius, a way to showcase the empire's ability to tame nature itself for its amusement. The message was one of absolute dominion. Rome could bring the farthest reaches of its empire, the beasts of Africa, the forests of Germania, to the very heart of the city, and then make them appear and disappear at will. The Hypogeum's machinery also allowed for elaborate thematic shows that reinforced imperial propaganda. Through these elevator shafts, entire artificial forests could be raised for a hunt, or naval battles could be staged by flooding the arena. These weren't just entertainments, they were recreations of Rome's military triumphs. When the audience witnessed a reenactment of the siege of Jerusalem or a conquest in Dacia, complete with authentic scenery and prisoners of war. It was a potent piece of political theater. The emperor, watching from his exclusive box, was not just a spectator but the master of ceremonies, the provider of this incredible display of power and technology. The hidden hypogeum was the engine of this illusion, allowing the state to manufacture reality itself, delivering a visceral message about the emperor's role as a divine benefactor and a commander of men, beasts, and even the elements. Beyond the grand imperial messages, the Colosseum's walls also hold intimate, personal whispers from the past in the form of ancient graffiti. Scratched into the stone by spectators waiting for the games to begin or commemorating a visit, these carvings are a fascinating window into the lives of ordinary Romans. Some depict detailed sketches of gladiators in action, often with their names and win-loss records etched beside them. Crescens the net fighter beat his opponent 12 times, revealing that these fighters were celebrated like modern sports stars. Other graffiti is more mundane, a sketched palm frond for victory, a name, a short message, but even these simple marks reveal social hierarchies. The quality and location of the graffiti tell a story. Crude carvings are found in the upper, poorer sections, while more refined inscriptions appear in the privileged lower levels. This informal record shows us that the audience was emotionally invested, placing bets, cheering on their favorites, and leaving their own small, permanent mark on the monument that dominated their lives. These scratches are the hidden human counterpoint to the empire's grand stone narrative, reminding us that for all its imposing power, the Colosseum was also a place of public passion, debate, and personal memory. Perched high in the Andean cloud forest, shrouded in mist and mystery, sits Machu Picchu, a city that seems to defy gravity itself. While its terraces and temples are a stunning feat of engineering, the true genius of this Inca citadel lies in the hidden messages woven into its very stones, messages that speak of a deep, sacred conversation between humanity, the earth, and the cosmos. At the heart of this dialogue is the Intihuatana stone, one of the most enigmatic and perfectly preserved astronomical instruments of the ancient world. Unlike a simple sundial, this elegantly carved granite pillar was a sophisticated device for reading the heavens. Its name is often translated as the hitching post of the sun, and during the two equinoxes, the Inca priests would have witnessed a breathtaking event. The sun would stand directly above the pillar, casting no shadow whatsoever. This moment of perfect balance was not just a celestial observation, it was a critical ritual. The Incas believed the sun was tied to the earth at specific sacred points, and that without these rituals, the sun might continue its journey south and never return, plunging the world into eternal darkness. The Intihuatana was their anchor, a tool to literally hitch the sun to the earth and ensure the continuity of life, seasons, and the cosmic order. This celestial alignment was just one part of a much larger architectural symphony. The entire city is a masterwork of sacred geography, with its most important structures precisely oriented toward the Apus, the towering, animist mountain spirits revered by the Inca. The Temple of the Three Windows is perfectly framed to offer a ceremonial view of the most sacred peaks of the Vilcabamba Range. Similarly, the principal temple and the iconic room known as the guardhouse are aligned so that on the June solstice, the rising sun appears directly over the summit of the distant Cerro San Juan. This wasn't mere city planning, it was a form of spiritual architecture. By building their city in such conscious harmony with these powerful natural features, the Incas were embedding a permanent message of reverence and reciprocity. They were acknowledging that humanity exists within a living, sacred landscape, and that their survival depended on maintaining a respectful relationship with the powerful forces of nature that surrounded them. The mountains were not just a backdrop, they were active participants in the life of the city, their presence invoked daily through the very orientation of the doors and windows. Perhaps the most astonishing demonstration of the Incas' philosophical and practical mastery is found in something that seems utterly mundane, their water management system. In a location receiving over 70 inches of rain annually, managing torrential downpours was a monumental challenge. The Inca response was a work of hydraulic genius that transformed a potential threat into a life-giving resource. They constructed 16 fountains that cascaded through the city, each channel meticulously carved from stone and engineered with a precise gradient to maintain a constant, gentle flow of water. The source was a natural spring on the north slope of the mountain, which they channeled into a long, stone-lined canal that still functions perfectly today. But this system was far more than just practical plumbing. It was a physical manifestation of a core Inca belief. Water was considered a sacred element, the blood of the earth deity Pachamama. The careful, reverent channeling of this resource from its pure mountain source through ceremonial fountains and finally to the agricultural terraces below symbolized the Incas' role as intermediaries. They weren't conquering nature, they were collaborating with it, using their profound understanding of engineering to honor and distribute the sacred gifts of the mountain. The soothing sound of flowing water that would have permeated the city was a constant, audible reminder of this successful harmony between human ingenuity and the natural world. This intricate fusion of astronomy, spirituality, and engineering suggests that Machu Picchu was far more than a royal estate or a military outpost. Many archaeologists now believe it was primarily a lacta, a sacred ceremonial center, and a yachewasi, a house of learning for the elite Inca priesthood. The Intihuatana stone was their classroom for astronomy, the temples their chapels for worshipping the Apus, and the water system their living lesson in sacred stewardship. The hidden message of Machu Picchu, therefore, is one of holistic wisdom. It stands as a stone manifesto of a worldview that did not separate science from spirituality or architecture from ecology. Every carved rock, every aligned doorway, and every flowing fountain was a deliberate statement about humanity's place within a vast, interconnected, and intelligent universe. The Inca did not build to dominate their environment, they built to converse with it, and the stones of Machu Picchu have been holding that conversation for over 500 years. Now we journey from the holistic wisdom of Machu Picchu to the sands of Egypt, where an even older enigma guards the Giza Plateau with an inscrutable gaze. The Great Sphinx, with the body of a lion and the head of a pharaoh, is an icon of ancient mystery. Conventional Egyptology attributes its construction to Pharaoh Khafre around 2,500 years before the Common Era, making it roughly contemporary with the nearby pyramids. However, a growing body of geological evidence challenges this timeline, suggesting the Sphinx could be far older, a relic from a lost age whose true history was rewritten by the sands of time. The most compelling argument for a much older Sphinx comes not from archaeology, but from the stone itself. Geologists have meticulously studied the pattern of erosion on the Sphinx's body and the walls of the enclosure it sits within. The weathering is not uniform. While the head shows typical erosion from wind and sand, the body and enclosure walls exhibit deep, undulating, vertical fissures and massive scalloped channels. This specific type of erosion is a textbook example of water weathering caused by prolonged exposure to heavy rainfall and runoff. The problem is, the Giza Plateau has been an arid desert for the last 5,000 years. The last period in which this region experienced significant, sustained rainfall capable of causing such damage was at the end of the last ice age, around 9,000 to 10,000 years ago. This geological evidence suggests the core body of the Sphinx was already standing, exposed to the elements millennia before Pharaoh Khafre ever ruled, potentially pushing its origins back into a prehistoric epoch that mainstream history has yet to acknowledge. This theory of a much older, original Sphinx opens up a fascinating possibility. What if the monument we see today is a restoration? Some researchers propose that the structure began as a much larger, natural limestone outcrop that was weathered into a leonine shape by those ancient downpours. Thousands of years later, a dynastic Egyptian pharaoh, Perhaps Koffer rediscovered this awe-inspiring natural sculpture. Recognizing its power, his artisans then recarved the deeply eroded form, refining the body and adding their own pharaonic likeness to create the Sphinx we recognize. This would explain the dramatic disproportion between the massive, weathered body and the smaller, finely detailed head, which shows significantly less erosion. The Sphinx, then, would be a palimpsest in stone, a collaboration between natural forces and human ingenuity across vast, forgotten stretches of time. Beyond the debate over its age lies an even more tantalizing mystery. What secrets might be buried beneath it? For centuries, legends and scholarly speculation have swirled around the existence of hidden chambers and tunnels below the Sphinx. The most famous of these is the legendary Hall of Records, a supposed ancient library said to contain the lost knowledge of a sophisticated precursor civilization, such as Atlantis. Edgar Cayce, the American psychic, famously predicted in the 1930s that this hall would be discovered and entered before the end of the 20th century, sparking decades of fascination and fruitless searching. While this remains in the realm of legend, actual surveys have revealed that the plateau is anything but solid rock. Seismic surveys and ground-penetrating radar have consistently suggested the presence of anomalies and cavities, particularly directly below the Sphinx's pores and along its sides. In the 1990s, a controversial team even located what appeared to be a man-made, rectangular chamber beneath the front left pore, though further exploration was halted by the Egyptian authorities. The true nature of these voids remains one of Egyptology's most guarded secrets, fueling speculation that the greatest messages from the past are still waiting, hidden in darkness directly below our feet. Perhaps the most celestial of the Sphinx's hidden messages is written in the stars above. The monument's leonine body is unmistakable, and this has led to a profound astronomical theory. Around 10,500 years before the Common Era, the constellation Leo would have risen directly due east on the spring equinox. During this epoch, if you were standing facing east at dawn on that equinox, you would have seen the sun rising perfectly in the middle of the constellation Leo, appearing to rest upon the horizon. This is a phenomenon known as the vernal equinox sunrise in the age of Leo. Astonishingly, the Sphinx itself gazes precisely due east toward the horizon where this event would have occurred. This has led researchers like Robert Bovell to propose the Orion correlation theory for the Sphinx, suggesting that the entire Giza complex was designed as a monumental star clock. The three pyramids represent Orion's belt as it appeared around 2,500 years before the Common Era, while the Sphinx represents the constellation Leo as it appeared on the horizon thousands of years earlier. This creates a fascinating duality, aligning the site with two different celestial eras and implying the builders had knowledge of precession, the slow wobble of Earth's axis that changes our view of the constellations over a 26,000-year cycle. If true, the Sphinx is not just a statue but a permanent marker of a specific moment in the Great Year, a stone sentinel that has been silently testifying to a forgotten golden age of astronomical understanding since the very dawn of human civilization. Carved into the rose-red cliffs of southern Jordan, the ancient city of Petra appears not as a built structure, but as a miracle drawn directly from the living rock. Its most iconic monument, Al-Kosneh, or the Treasury, is a breathtaking facade that has captivated explorers and filmmakers for generations. Yet, for all its fame, the true purpose and meaning of this masterpiece have been largely misunderstood. It wasn't a treasury at all, but a magnificent royal tomb, and its design holds a secret language of celestial alignment, hidden wealth, and ingenious survival, all encoded by the brilliant Nabatean civilization that created it. The first clue to decoding the treasury lies not in its ornate carvings, but in its precise orientation. The main entrance doorway is perfectly aligned to capture the setting sun on the equinoxes. On these 2 days of the year, the last rays of sunlight would have streamed directly through the grand portal, illuminating the inner chamber in a dramatic burst of light. This was no happy accident, for the Nabateans, a people whose prosperity was built on mastering the desert and the trade routes that crossed it, astronomy was a practical science. The equinox alignment served as a sophisticated calendar marker, signaling the change of seasons and the optimal times for travel and trade. This celestial connection transformed the tomb from a mere house of the dead into a cosmic clock, its doorway a permanent link between the earthly realm and the cyclical order of the heavens. This spiritual and astronomical significance is echoed in the facade's magnificent sculpture. The central figure standing in the upper urn is the Egyptian goddess Isis, a deity associated with magic, life, and the afterlife. Flanking her are dancing Amazons and twin Castor and Pollux figures, the divine twins of Greek mythology who were eventually placed among the stars as the constellation Gemini. This fusion of Egyptian, Greek, and indigenous Nabatean symbols was a deliberate statement. It proclaimed that the Nabatean elite were sophisticated, cosmopolitan players on the world stage, fluent in the cultural languages of the great empires around them. The entire facade is a resume in stone, announcing the status, power, and worldliness of the king buried within. Of course, the most famous feature of the treasury is the massive, intricately carved stone urn that crowns the summit of the facade. For centuries, local Bedouin tradition held that this urn was not mere decoration, but a literal container filled with the priceless treasure of a pharaoh. This belief was so powerful that it gave the entire structure its name, Al-Khosneh, the treasury. The evidence of this fervent belief is etched into the stone itself, in the form of hundreds of bullet scars pockmarking the surface of the urn. Generations of treasure seekers fired their rifles at it, hoping to shatter the stone and release a shower of gold and jewels. They failed, of course, because the urn is solid rock. The true treasure of the Nabateans wasn't hidden in a stone vase. It was embedded in the very landscape around them, in a technology far more valuable than gold in the desert, water. The real hidden message of Petra, and indeed of the entire Nabatean civilization, is written not in stone but in water. In one of the most arid regions on Earth, the Nabateans engineered a hydraulic system of staggering complexity that turned their capital into a lush, habitable oasis. This genius for water management is visible throughout Petra, with channels, cisterns, and dams carved seamlessly into the rock. The treasury itself is part of this system. A sophisticated water channel was carved into the cliff face just above the monument, designed to divert flash floodwater away from the delicate facade and into a massive underground cistern. The real treasure was the knowledge of how to survive and thrive in a harsh environment, a skill that made the Nabateans the undisputed masters of the desert trade routes. The bullet-riddled urn, therefore, stands as a powerful symbol of misinterpretation. For centuries, outsiders saw only the potential for material wealth, completely missing the profound and practical genius that was the true source of the Nabateans' power, their ability to command the most precious resource in the desert. Now we travel from the rock-carved genius of Petra to the heart of ancient Rome, to a monument so perfectly preserved it feels as if it has defied time itself. The Pantheon stands not as a ruin but as a complete and functioning building, a breathtaking testament to Roman engineering and cosmological ambition. While its majestic columned portico is impressive, the true marvel lies within. Step through the giant bronze doors and you are instantly transported into a different realm, a vast spherical space crowned by the most revolutionary dome the ancient world had ever seen. This is not merely a temple, it is a calculated physical model of the Roman universe, a hidden message about the order of the cosmos written in concrete and light. The dome itself is the first and most profound statement. Its dimensions are a masterpiece of mathematical poetry. The height from the floor to the apex of the dome is exactly equal to its internal diameter, 150 Roman feet. This means that a perfect sphere 43.3 meters across could fit snugly inside the rotunda, its curve following the interior of the dome. This deliberate equivalence was a bold architectural declaration. The Romans were creating a microcosm, a man-made replica of the celestial sphere that housed the planets and the stars. The coffered or indented squares that recede into the dome are not just decorative. They reduce the immense weight of the structure while also creating an illusion of a receding, star-studded sky, drawing the viewer's eye upward toward the heavens. All of this grandeur focuses on a single, breathtaking feature, the oculus. This 27-foot-wide opening at the very top of the dome is the building's only source of natural light. But it is far more than a simple skylight. It is a sophisticated multi-functional instrument. As the sun moves across the sky, its beam pierces the oculus and travels like a luminous spotlight across the interior. It sweeps across the richly marbled walls and the intricate floor, marking the hours of the day with the precision of a sundial. This moving light show transforms the static architecture into a dynamic timepiece. On the spring equinox at high noon, the beam of light shines directly onto the top of the entrance doorway, a dazzling public demonstration of the sun's power and a marker of the seasonal change. The oculus makes the passage of time a visible, tangible presence within the temple, connecting everyone inside to the cosmic clockwork. Beyond its function as a calendar, the oculus served as a powerful spiritual conduit. In a temple dedicated to all the gods, this open hole in the roof was a literal opening to the divine. It created a direct, unimpeded line of sight between the worshippers below and the heavens above. Rain and even the occasional snowfall would fall through it, and the Romans saw this not as an architectural flaw, but as a sacred feature, a way for the temple to commune directly with the elements and the gods who controlled them. The light itself was considered divine. As it streamed in, it would illuminate statues of the gods placed in niches around the rotunda, seemingly bringing them to life in a radiant glow. This interplay of light and architecture was designed to inspire awe and reinforce the idea that the gods were present, watching, and interacting with the world below through this celestial portal. The final layer of the pantheon's hidden message is written on the floor upon which you stand. The geometric pattern of colored marbles is not random. It is a series of precise squares and circles that create a grid across the floor. On significant dates throughout the year, the beam of light from the oculus interacts with this grid in specific, deliberate ways. For example, at midday on the equinoxes, the circular patch of light is perfectly framed within a series of larger circular patterns in the floor. And on April 21st, the traditional birthday of Rome, the midday sunbeam strikes a specific point on the grille above the entrance doorway, flooding the gateway with light. This suggests the entire interior, the dome, the oculus, and the floor were designed as an integrated astronomical device. The floor acts as a calibrated chart, allowing priests to track the sun's changing path and celebrate important civic and religious festivals with pinpoint accuracy. The Pantheon, therefore, is a building that operates on multiple levels simultaneously. It is an unparalleled feat of engineering that has stood for nearly 2,000 years. It is a cosmic metaphor, a scale model of the universe. It is a giant clock and calendar that marks the passage of time, and it is a profound spiritual space that connects the earthly to the divine. Every element, from the curve of the dome to the patterns in the floor, works in concert to deliver a unified message about the Roman worldview, that the universe is a place of perfect mathematical order, and that Rome, through its ingenuity and divine favor, had not only understood that order but had captured it within a single, perfect building. It remains one of the most complete and intelligible messages from the ancient world, a dialogue between humanity, architecture, and the cosmos that is still happening every time the sun moves through the oculus. Leaving the harmonious celestial clock of the Pantheon, we now venture to a site where the very fabric of the universe was believed to be forged, Teotihuacan. Known as the City of the Gods, this massive metropolis dominated ancient Mesoamerica, and at its heart stands the colossal Pyramid of the Sun. While its immense scale is overwhelming, the pyramid's true purpose is revealed not by looking up at its summit, but by looking down deep beneath its foundations. Here, hidden in a dark, man-made cave system, the Teotihuacanos engineered one of the most astonishing and otherworldly sacred spaces ever discovered, a place where they literally brought the night sky underground. The journey into this mystery begins with a natural lava tube cave that was significantly enlarged by human hands, creating a passage that leads directly to a point almost exactly beneath the pyramid's central axis. This was no ordinary cave. It was considered a sacred portal to the underworld, a place of immense spiritual power known as a cenote or Chicamastok, the mythical place of earthly emergence. But the Teotihuacanos didn't just leave this cavern in its natural state. Archaeologists have made a series of breathtaking finds here that defy easy explanation. During excavations, they discovered substantial quantities of liquid mercury pooled in chambers beneath the pyramid. In the ancient world, mercury was an incredibly rare and mysterious substance, difficult to mine and refine. It had no practical use for construction, but it held profound symbolic power. Its shimmering, liquid metal surface, which moves and swirls like something alive, was likely seen as representing a sacred river or lake in the underworld, a physical manifestation of the boundary between the world of the living and the world of the gods and ancestors. The experience within this cavern would have been truly psychedelic. Imagine a priest or shaman descending into the absolute darkness of this sacred cave carrying a single torch. As the flickering light hit those pools of quicksilver and the walls studded with sheets of mineral pyrite fool's gold, the entire chamber would have erupted into a dazzling spectacle. The pyrite, when polished into mirrors, creates a near-perfect reflective surface. The torchlight would have bounced and multiplied between these mirrors and the shimmering mercury, creating the dizzying illusion of standing amidst a field of stars. This was the ultimate hidden message. The Teotihuacanos had recreated the cosmos in microcosm. They built a model of the night sky deep within the earth, physically demonstrating their belief that the underworld was the inverted mirror of the heavens above, and that the pyramid was the axis mundi that connected these two realms. It was a multi-sensory ritual designed to disorient the senses and transport the participant to another plane of existence, all achieved with a brilliant understanding of light and rare materials. This earthly representation of the cosmos was mirrored precisely in the pyramid's alignment and proportions. The entire city of Teotihuacan is laid out on a grid that is deliberately offset from true north by 15.5 degrees. For decades, this was considered a puzzling error until researchers realized the city's main avenue, the Street of the Dead, was not aligned with a terrestrial pole but with a celestial one. It points directly to the setting point of the Pleiades star cluster on the horizon. Known across Mesoamerica, the Pleiades held immense importance, their appearance and disappearance marking key agricultural cycles and serving as a harbinger of the all-important rainy season. By aligning their entire sacred city to this star cluster, the Teotihuacanos were grounding their reality in the heavens, ensuring their world below was a perfect reflection of the order above. The Pyramid of the Sun itself is a massive mathematical equation written in stone. The side of its base measures approximately 260 meters. If you take that measurement and multiply it by 4 and then again by pi, you get a number that is strikingly close to the number of days in the Mayan ceremonial calendar, the Tzolk'in. This is no coincidence. It reflects a pan-Mesoamerican understanding of sacred geometry. The pyramid's volume and the ratios between its levels are believed to encode other calendrical cycles, effectively making the structure a permanent, immovable calendar. You couldn't just look at a pyramid of the sun. You were meant to read it, to understand its dimensions as a theological statement about the nature of time and the universe. It was a constant, physical reminder that human life was governed by the same mathematical and celestial principles that ordered the cosmos. This profound connection between the earthly and the celestial suggests that Teotihuacan was far more than a city. It was a grand cosmological machine. The Pyramid of the Sun was its beating heart, a structure that connected the watery, starlit underworld beneath to the precise movements of the stars above. The hidden Mercury and mirrors were the key to this entire belief system, a secret known only to the elite priests who used it to journey between worlds. The pyramid stands as a monumental testament to a civilization that saw no separation between science and spirituality, between engineering and epiphany. They didn't just observe the universe, they sought to replicate its fundamental patterns on Earth, building a city of the gods that was, in their eyes, a perfect copy of the heavens. Now we move from the cosmic mysteries of Teotihuacan to a monument that speaks to the very soul of a nation, carved not from volcanic rock but from the ideals of unity and freedom. The Lincoln Memorial in Washington, D.C., stands as a beacon of American democracy, a hallowed space where millions come to reflect. While the majestic statue of a seated Abraham Lincoln is instantly recognizable, the memorial's deepest messages are woven into its architecture and inscriptions, a series of deliberate choices that transform the structure from a simple tribute into a profound narrative about preservation and equality. Directly behind the towering statue of Lincoln, etched into the wall in massive letters, is an inscription that seems straightforward at first glance. In this temple as in the hearts of the people for whom he saved the Union the memory of Abraham Lincoln is enshrined forever. These words, chosen by the memorial's committee, carry a subtle but powerful weight. The phrase, "for whom he saved the Union," was a carefully considered alternative to the more common, "who saved the Union." This specific grammatical choice shifts the meaning in a significant way. It emphasizes that Lincoln's heroic act was performed on behalf of the people, reinforcing the foundational democratic principle that the government exists to serve its citizens. It's a hidden linguistic message, a reminder that the Union was saved not for its own sake, but for the people who comprised it, making the memorial a testament to popular sovereignty as much as to the man himself. This theme of unity is physically embodied by the memorial's iconic colonnade. Encircling the structure are 36 massive Doric columns, each one representing one of the 36 states in the Union at the time of Lincoln's death in 1865. The number itself is a silent, sobering monument to a nation fractured and then painfully stitched back together. Above these columns, carved into the frieze, are the names of all 36 states, along with the dates of their admission into the Union. This architectural feature sends a clear message. The memorial is not just about Lincoln the individual, but about the entire country he fought to preserve. The columns don't just hold up the roof, they symbolize the collective strength and support of a United States, standing together to uphold the principles Lincoln championed. It's a powerful architectural metaphor for national unity, suggesting that the preservation of the Union was a collective achievement forever memorialized in stone. Perhaps the most charming and human of the memorial's secrets is a tiny, persistent mistake. Flanking the statue on the north and south walls are inscribed the full texts of Lincoln's second inaugural address and his Gettysburg Address. Etchers working from a printed copy of the Gettysburg Address inscribed the word "future" instead of "future" in the famous final line. That we here highly resolve that these dead shall not have died in vain, that this nation under God shall have a new birth of freedom, and that government of the people, by the people, for the people shall not perish from the earth. When the error was discovered, rather than discarding the expensive stone panel or attempting a clumsy correction, the craftsmen made a deliberate choice. They carefully chiseled out the bottom bar of the erroneous E, transforming it into a correct, if slightly imperfect, F. This minor flaw was never hidden or disguised. It remains visible to this day, a testament to the human hands that built this sacred space. This small typo, forever preserved, serves as an unintentional but beautiful message that perfection is not a prerequisite for greatness, and that the ideal of a more perfect union is a continuous process of correction and refinement, much like the nation itself. While the Leaning Tower of Pisa is universally famous for its famous flaw, that very imperfection tells a story far richer than a simple engineering error. The tilt, which began during its construction in the 12th century due to a shallow foundation on unstable subsoil, was never part of the plan. For centuries, architects and engineers tried to correct it, inadvertently creating a visible timeline of human attempts to fight nature. This unintentional message of architectural fallibility is what makes the tower so profoundly human and relatable. It stands not as a symbol of flawless perfection, but of persistent resilience. It's a monument to the idea that sometimes our greatest mistakes can become our most defining and enduring features, a lesson in embracing imperfection that has resonated for hundreds of years. But to see the tower only as a leaning cylinder is to miss the sophisticated secrets locked within its walls. The interior holds a series of hidden chambers and hollow spaces within the thick masonry that were long thought to be merely structural. However, recent studies suggest these voids may have served a dual purpose far more ingenious than mere weight reduction. Small, strategically placed apertures in the inner walls allowed narrow beams of sunlight to penetrate the darkness within. On specific days of the year, these shafts of light would align with marks on the interior surfaces, functioning as a massive, primitive meridian line. This transformed the tower into a rudimentary but effective astronomical observatory, allowing medieval scholars to track the sun's zenith and the changing seasons with surprising accuracy, proving the tower was always intended to be a building of both faith and science. This marriage of the spiritual and the scientific reaches its crescendo at the very top of the tower within the bell chamber. Here hang 7 massive bells, each cast and installed in a different century. The largest bell, known as El Ashunta, weighs over 3,600 pounds. While they are no longer rung for fear of destabilizing the structure, each bell carries an inscription that, when read in the order of their installation dates, corresponds to the notes of the major musical scale. This was not a random occurrence but a deeply symbolic choice by the master bell makers. In medieval thought, music was considered a reflection of the harmony of the heavens, the music of the spheres. By tuning the bells to this scale, the tower was literally singing a hymn to celestial order, its song meant to be a perfect harmonic bridge between the earthly realm below and the divine cosmos above. The Leaning Tower of Pisa, therefore, stands on 3 hidden messages: a tilt that speaks to human perseverance, inner chambers that track the sun, and a set of bells that once sang the song of the universe itself. Standing tall in New York Harbor, the Statue of Liberty is more than a welcome to immigrants. She is a complex political statement carved in copper, her symbolic language carefully chosen to send a powerful message about freedom and enlightenment. While her torch is the most visible emblem of liberty, some of her most profound symbols are hidden in plain sight, woven into her design by the French sculptor Frédéric Auguste Bartholdi. To truly understand her, we must look beyond the torch and gaze downward to the folds of her stola and the platform on which she stands. There, at her feet, lies a broken chain, half shrouded by her robes and largely unseen by viewers on the ground. This is no minor detail. This broken chain signifies the shattering of bondage and the triumph of freedom over oppression. It's a deliberate, powerful echo of the abolition of slavery, a cause both Bartholdi and his supporter, Édouard René de Laboulaye, deeply believed in. Laboulaye, a French political thinker, envisioned the statue as a celebration of the Union's victory in the American Civil War and the end of slavery, making Lady Liberty not just a symbol of welcoming, but a monument to a specific, hard-won liberation. This theme of universal freedom is magnificently echoed in her crown. The 7 rays emanating from her diadem are often said to represent the 7 seas and the 7 continents, a design proclaiming that the idea of liberty should shine across the entire globe, reaching every corner of the earth and every person. The crown itself transforms her into a radiant, divine figure, akin to the Roman sun god Sol Invictus or the Greek titan Helios, deities often depicted with a spiked halo. By adopting this iconography, Bartholdi wasn't just creating a statue, he was creating a new goddess for the modern age, a deity not of mythology but of human rights and enlightened reason. The 25 windows in the crown, offering a breathtaking view to those who climb inside, further symbolize the gemstones found on such heavenly crowns and the illuminating light of liberty piercing through to the world. Perhaps the most overt and intentional political message is held firmly in her left arm. It's a tabula ansata, a keystone-shaped tablet evoking the concept of law and governance. Inscribed upon it is the date, July Roman 4 MDCCLXXVI, July 4, 1776. This is a brilliantly direct piece of symbolism. By inscribing the date of the American Declaration of Independence, the statue is permanently and inextricably linked to the birth of the American Republic and its foundational ideals. It's a reminder that the liberty she represents is rooted in the Enlightenment principles of democracy, self-governance, and inalienable rights. This wasn't just a gift of a statue, it was a gift of an idea, a reinforcement of a shared political vision between the two republics of France and the United States. The tablet grounds her lofty symbolism in a specific historical moment, making her a permanent guardian of that revolutionary promise. Yet, her message is not solely one of past triumph, it is also one of forward momentum and movement. Notice that she is not standing still. Her right foot is raised and she is captured in mid-stride, walking forward. This dynamic pose signifies progress, advancement, and the ongoing march of freedom. She is not a static idol but an active force, moving away from the broken chains of tyranny and toward a future of continued enlightenment. Even the placement on Liberty Island was strategic, positioning her to face southeast, welcoming ships entering the harbor from the Atlantic. This orientation was a deliberate choice to make her the very first site for millions of immigrants arriving by sea, transforming her from a general symbol into a personal beacon of hope for those seeking a new beginning. Every element, from the hidden chains to the radiant crown to the dated tablet, works in concert to tell a story of liberation achieved and a future of progress yet to come, making her one of the most eloquently designed political monuments in the world. Rising from the heart of the National Mall, the Washington Monument seems like a study in pure, unadorned simplicity, a towering obelisk dedicated to the nation's first president. But this iconic structure guards a collection of secrets, beginning not at its base, but at its very peak where a small, gleaming metal pyramid completes its design. This is the monument's capstone, but it is unlike any other. In an age where aluminum was more precious than silver, this 9-inch pyramid was cast from the rare metal, a dazzling technological achievement for 1884. Its casting was such a monumental event that it was placed on public display at Tiffany's in New York before being hoisted into position, where it remains utterly invisible from the ground below. But its true secret is written on its eastern face, an inscription facing eternally toward the heavens, Laus Deo, which translates from Latin to "Praise be to God." This phrase, hidden from public view and known only through historical records, is the literal cornerstone of the entire memorial, a quiet but profound declaration of the spiritual foundation upon which the nation was built, forever looking upward. While the capstone's message is directed skyward, the monument's stonework tells a different story, one of a nation fractured and then painstakingly made whole again. A close observer will notice a subtle but distinct visual change about 1/3 of the way up the obelisk. This is not a trick of the light, it is a permanent historical record. Construction began in 1848 but was halted for over 2 decades due to a lack of funds and the intervening catastrophe of the Civil War. When work finally resumed in 1876, the original quarry in Maryland was no longer available. The builders were forced to source marble from a different set of quarries in Massachusetts. The stone from these new sources was microscopically different in mineral composition and age, leading to a slightly different shade as it weathered over time. This visible line, often called the memory line, is a permanent scar in the monument's facade, a silent but powerful testament to the nation's near dissolution and its hard-won reconstruction, literally set in stone for all time. This architectural narrative extends beyond the monument itself, integrating it into a far grander design. The Washington Monument is the central anchor of the National Mall's cross-axis, but its placement was determined by more than just city planning. It was meticulously situated to serve as the central gnomon, the pointer, in a massive celestial calendar that encompasses the entire capital. During the summer solstice, if you stand at the center of the Lincoln Memorial steps and gaze toward the monument, you will see the sun set directly in line with the obelisk's peak. This precise alignment was no accident. It was a deliberate feature incorporated by the designers of the Macmillan Plan in the early 20th century, who sought to infuse the city with the symbolic power of the heavens, transforming the entire mall into a public temple honoring the democratic ideals that follow the cycles of natural law. The celestial dialogue continues with a tribute to the man the monument honors. The interior houses a swift elevator ride to the observation deck, but for those who once climbed the 897 steps, the journey was punctuated by 193 memorial stones donated by all 50 states, numerous cities, foreign nations, and civic organizations. Each stone is unique, featuring designs, quotes, and minerals native to its origin. One of the most fascinating is from Alaska, a jade stone inscribed with a phrase in Inupiaq, while another from the Cherokee Nation features text in their own syllabary. This collection transforms the internal structure into a literal United States of America, a mosaic of the nation's diverse geography and peoples, all contributing to the whole and paying homage to Washington's unifying legacy. From its hidden heavenly praise to its earthly scars and its role in a grand celestial scheme, the Washington Monument is a multi-layered monument to the idea of a more perfect union, forever striving toward the sky. While the iconic Moai standing on their ceremonial platforms capture our imagination, the true epicenter of their creation holds an even deeper and more mysterious story. Nestled in the volcanic crater of Rano Raraku, the sacred quarry where every single one of these giants was born, the landscape tells a far more complex tale than simple statue production. Here, hundreds of moai in every stage of completion remain frozen in time, some finished and awaiting transport, others barely outlined in the bedrock. It is on the backs of these unfinished figures that we find a hidden language waiting to be read, not with words but with symbols. As archaeologists have carefully excavated the deep layers of soil that built up over centuries, they've uncovered a stunning secret. The backs of many moai are covered in intricate petroglyphs. These aren't the random scratches of idle workers. They are deliberate, deeply carved images that reveal a spiritual dimension to the carving process. Common motifs include the Polynesian canoe, or waka, a powerful symbol of the Rapa Nui people's seafaring origins and their identity. Other carvings depict Komri, the symbol for a woman's vulva, representing fertility and the continuation of life. These hidden inscriptions transform the moai from mere statues into sacred texts, their backs serving as permanent records of clan lineage, mythology, and core beliefs, messages meant not for public display, but for the earth and the ancestors themselves. The quarry landscape presents another profound puzzle. Why are so many moai deliberately buried, some right up to their necks? For a long time, it was assumed that these statues had simply sunk into the soft earth over the centuries. However, careful excavation and soil analysis tell a different story. The burial was often intentional, a ceremonial act. By placing a finished moai in a specific pit and covering it carefully, the Rapa Nui were effectively planting their ancestors back into the belly of the earth, the sacred quarry from which they came. This act connected the mana, or spiritual power, of the ancestor directly with the generative power of the land. These buried moai weren't abandoned. They became permanent fixtures of the quarry's sacred geography, acting as guardians of the site and perhaps serving as conduits for spiritual energy that would aid in the creation of future statues. The quarry was not just a workshop, it was a church, and the act of carving was a spiritual ceremony from extraction to eventual placement. Adding another layer to this mystery are the subtle but distinct variations in the moai themselves. Look closely at the heads of the statues, both those on the platforms and those in the quarry, and you'll notice they are not all identical. Some have more angular, elongated craniums, while others are rounder. Some feature pronounced downturned mouths, and others have a more neutral expression. These differences are likely not artistic whimsy, but could be a form of symbolic portraiture. Each clan likely had its own master carvers who developed a slight stylistic signature, a way to visually identify which ancestor belonged to which family group. The variations in head shape might also represent different hairstyles, top knots made of hair that were common among the Rapa Nui elite, or even symbolic representations of different personality traits attributed to the ancestor being honored. This suggests a society with a complex social structure, where individual clan identity was fiercely maintained even as they participated in the island-wide collective effort of moai construction. The quarry of Rano Raraku, therefore, is not a graveyard of failed projects, but a frozen moment of immense spiritual and creative activity, a place where every stone, every symbol, and every buried giant speaks to a culture that saw its entire world as deeply, powerfully alive. Perched high above the modern city of Granada, the Alhambra Palace seems less like a building and more like a delicate lacework of stone and light, a fortress of profound intellect and devotion. While its grand arches and serene courtyards are stunning, to truly understand the Alhambra is to learn to read a language where words, geometry, and water itself become one unified spiritual text. This is not an architecture of silent stone. It is a living, whispering dialogue between art, science, and faith, designed to overwhelm the senses and elevate the soul. The most immediate and enveloping of these languages is calligraphy. Walk through the Court of the Myrtles or stand beneath the magnificent stalactite ceiling of the Hall of the Ambassadors, and you are surrounded by a flowing, endless stream of Arabic script. These are not random decorations, they are a continuous, poetic inscription known as the Nasrid motto, repeating one phrase thousands of times throughout the palace, Wa la galib illa Allah, and there is no victor but God. This powerful declaration served a dual purpose. On one level, it was a humble, constant praise to the divine, a reminder to all who walked these halls that ultimate power and victory belong only to God. But it was also a subtle political statement from the Nasrid emirs who built this paradise on earth. By inscribing this motto everywhere, they were publicly attributing their own political and military successes to divine will, legitimizing their rule and presenting themselves as pious servants of God. The sheer ubiquity of the phrase creates a hypnotic, meditative atmosphere, wrapping every visitor in a sacred mantra carved in plaster and wood. Beyond the written word, the Alhambra's architects wrote another, more abstract language in the very structure of the ceilings and arches. Look up into any of the breathtaking domes, like those in the Hall of the Two Sisters or the Abencerrage Hall, and you will see the muqarnas. These mesmerizing, honeycomb-like formations are far more than ornate decoration. They are a sophisticated three-dimensional manifestation of complex mathematical principles, a physical representation of the universe's infinite complexity. Each individual cell, or mokarab, is a single piece of a larger, repeating geometric pattern that seems to grow organically from the walls, dissolving the solid ceiling into a scintillating, star-like cascade. This was a deliberate architectural metaphor. The Muqarnas symbolized the celestial dome of heaven, a complex, unfathomable, and beautiful creation that, despite its apparent chaos, is built upon perfect, divine mathematical order. To gaze upward was to be shown a model of the cosmos, a visual sermon about the harmony and intelligence underlying all of creation. This celestial theme is made even more explicit in the Court of the Lions, the palace's breathtaking epicenter. The famous fountain at its center, supported by 12 marble lions, is not merely a decorative centerpiece. It is a functioning astronomical clock and a powerful symbol. The 12 lions are believed to represent the 12 signs of the zodiac, the great celestial clock that governs time itself. The 4 water channels that divide the courtyard into quadrants point toward the 4 cardinal directions, but they also symbolize the 4 rivers of paradise described in the Quran. This transforms the entire courtyard into a miniature model of the Islamic cosmos, with the fountain as its life-giving axis. The water, the most precious resource in the arid Spanish landscape, becomes the sacred fluid that connects the earthly garden to the heavenly one, making the Alhambra a literal paradise on earth. Water is in fact the third and most dynamic language spoken within the Alhambra's walls. The Nasrid engineers were hydraulic geniuses, channeling water from the distant Sierra Nevada mountains through a complex system of aqueducts and canals to bring life to the palace. But here, water was used for far more than irrigation. It was an essential component of spiritual and sensory engineering. In the general life gardens, the long, narrow rills are designed with a specific gradient to create a particular, gentle sound as the water flows, a soft, constant murmur that induces a state of calm reflection. The placement of fountains was calculated so that their sound would mask human conversation, providing acoustic privacy for the royal family. Most brilliantly, the builders positioned pools and water channels directly in front of key archways and buildings. This was not just for cooling the air, it was for creating perfect inverted reflections. The still water of the Court of the Myrtles acts as a mirror, doubling the majestic Tower of Comers and making the earthly structure appear to float, ethereal and weightless, between the real and the reflected world. This visual trick blurred the line between the solid and the ephemeral, inviting contemplation on the nature of reality and the divine. A multisensory message that true beauty and truth are found not just in what is built, but in its reflection. Deep in the earthy silence beneath a Chinese burial mound, an eternal god stands watch, but this is no monolithic regiment of identical statues. As we move from the flowing water and reflected heavens of the Alhambra, we find ourselves in the presence of the Terracotta Army, a monument of staggering individuality where the hidden message isn't carved in stone, but molded into the very faces of thousands of clay soldiers. The first and most profound shock is the sheer diversity of their expressions. Look from one face to another and you will not find a single duplicate. There are young recruits with smooth, determined jaws, grizzled veterans with stern, weathered features, and officers with an air of calm authority. Each man has distinct ethnic characteristics: high cheekbones from the steppes, broader faces from the central plains, and delicate features from the south. This was the ultimate hidden message from China's first emperor, Qin Shi Huang. His power was so absolute, his dominion so complete, that he could command not just a faceless military, but the very identities of his subjects, immortalizing them in clay to serve him for eternity. This army was a census in terracotta, a permanent record of the diverse human tapestry that he had welded into a single, powerful empire. But the faces are only the beginning of the story. To understand the true scale of the organizational genius behind this project, you have to look for the hidden marks left by the hands that built them. Turn any of the thousands of figures over, and you will find inscriptions carved or stamped into the clay before it was fired. These are not artistic signatures, they are bureaucratic records. The markings reveal a system of astonishing efficiency and accountability. They record the name of the master craftsman in charge of a workshop and often the specific laborer who assembled that particular piece. One mark might read, for example, "Gong from the left," indicating the artisan was from the left workshop and was held personally responsible for the quality of his work. This system of workshop names like right, left, and center points to a massive, state-controlled production operation that was organized with military precision. The hidden message here is one of immense administrative power. Emperor Qin didn't just want an army, he wanted a perfect, flawless one, and he instituted a primitive form of quality control to ensure every soldier, every horse, and every chariot met his exacting standard. The terracotta army is therefore a testament to the birth of centralized bureaucratic government, its secrets written in the fingerprints and workshop stamps on the underside of history. The most technologically stunning messages, however, were held in the soldiers' hands. While the wooden shafts of their weapons rotted away long ago, the bronze blades, spearheads, and triggers for crossbows remained, and they held a secret that would not be understood for 2,000 years. When archaeologists first examined these weapons, they were baffled to find them still sharp, gleaming, and remarkably free of corrosion after being buried for millennia. The reason was a microscopic layer of chromium dioxide coating the surface of the bronze. For decades, this was heralded as a 2,000-year-old anticipation of 20th-century chrome plating technology, a lost secret that prevented rust. More recent research has refined this amazing story. It appears the chromium was not deliberately plated onto the weapons in the modern sense. Instead, it was a byproduct of a sophisticated, though likely accidental, preservation technique. The artisans were likely using a lacquer, a common finish in China made from the sap of the lacquer tree, to protect and seal the wooden components of the weapons like crossbow stocks and spear shafts. This lacquer is naturally rich in chromium. When the weapons were placed in the pits and the lacquered wood parts were burned during the uprising that followed the emperor's death, the intense heat caused the chromium from the burning lacquer to vaporize and settle as a thin, protective film on the adjacent bronze metal. Whether by brilliant design or incredibly fortunate accident, the result was the same. The emperor's arsenal was protected from the ravages of time. The hidden message conveyed by these pristine blades was one of invincibility. For the soldiers who carried them and the enemies who faced them, these weapons represented the cutting edge of military technology. Their enduring shine, even in the damp earth, would have been seen as a supernatural sign of the Qin dynasty's perpetual power, a technological advantage so profound it seemed to defy nature itself. The terracotta army, therefore, is a multi-layered masterpiece of messaging from the intimately personal faces of its soldiers to the organized workshop stamps of a burgeoning bureaucracy, to the miraculously preserved weapons that proclaimed a technological supremacy meant to last forever. Stepping through its massive bronze doors, the first thing that strikes you is not the grandeur, but the profound sense of harmony. The Pantheon feels less like a building and more like a perfect, contained universe. This sensation is no accident. It is the result of a mathematical and spiritual principle embedded in its very proportions. The distance from the floor to the very top of the dome is exactly equal to the building's interior diameter, 150 Roman feet. This perfect symmetry means a colossal sphere could fit snugly inside the rotunda, its curve tracing the interior of the dome. This was a breathtaking architectural declaration. The Romans were not just constructing a temple, they were creating a scale model of the cosmos, a man-made replica of the celestial sphere that housed the planets and stars, inviting the heavens themselves down to earth. All of this harmonious geometry draws your eye irresistibly upward to the building's soul, the oculus. This 27-foot wide opening at the dome's apex is the only source of natural light, a single eye open to the sky. But it functions with a sophistication that belies its simple appearance. As the sun journeys across the sky, its beam slices through the oculus and travels like a luminous spotlight across the interior. It sweeps across the richly marbled walls and the intricate geometric floor, marking the hours of the day with the quiet precision of a celestial clock. This isn't a static monument, it's a dynamic instrument. On significant dates, this light show becomes a form of divine theater. At midday on the spring equinox, for instance, the beam of light shines directly onto the top of the entrance doorway, a brilliant public demonstration of the sun's power and a marker of the seasonal change, seamlessly blending the sacred with the scientific. This celestial connection is reinforced by the dome's magnificent coffered ceiling. Those 5 rows of 28 square indentations are far more than decorative. They are a masterstroke of engineering and symbolism. By carving out these coffers, the builders dramatically reduced the immense weight of the dome without sacrificing an ounce of its structural integrity, preventing a catastrophic collapse. But the pattern also serves a higher purpose. The receding squares create a powerful illusion of a soaring, infinite height, drawing the gaze upward and evoking the image of a starry sky. Some historians suggest the gilded rosettes that once adorned the center of each coffer were meant to represent stars or planets, transforming the entire ceiling into a frozen, architectural chart of the night sky, directly mirroring the cosmic order observed through the oculus below. The materials used throughout the interior tell another story, entirely one of absolute imperial dominance. The vibrant marbles that panel the walls and floor were not local. They were spoils of conquest imported from the farthest reaches of the empire. The rich purple porphyry was quarried from the deserts of Egypt, a stone so associated with imperial power that its use was later restricted to the emperor alone. The pale yellow giallo antico came from Tunisia, the deep green serpentino from Greece, and the granite columns were hauled from Mons Claudianus in Egypt's eastern mountains. This was a calculated display of wealth and control. A visitor to the Pantheon would have been surrounded by a geological map of Roman conquest, a visceral reminder that the entire known world paid tribute to Rome, and that its emperor had the power to command even the very earth itself, reshaping it into a temple worthy of all the gods. The building itself was a symbol of the empire's unifying might, a microcosm of its vast territories brought together in perfect, harmonious order. Leaving the harmonious imperial geometry of the Pantheon, we now journey to the banks of the Nile, to a temple complex so vast it feels like a city built by and for gods. The Temple of Karnak isn't a single structure but a sprawling, multi-generational project of pharaonic one-upmanship, where each ruler sought to outdo his predecessors in devotion and scale. Yet beneath this apparent chaos of pylons, obelisks, and hypostyle halls lies an intricate, hidden order, a grand design that turns the entire complex into a massive, stone-built machine for harnessing the power of the sun and reenacting the very creation of the universe. This celestial purpose is most dramatically revealed along the temple's main east-west axis. For most of the year, this central pathway feels like a monumental processional route, but on one specific day, it transforms into something far more profound. At the precise moment of the winter solstice sunset, the dying rays of the sun align perfectly with this central axis. The light pierces through the shadowy depths of the temple, moving past the towering columns of the great hypostyle hall, through a series of progressively smaller and more sacred gateways, until it finally illuminates the inner sanctum, the most holy chamber where the statue of the god Amun-Ra resided. This was no happy coincidence, it was masterful architectural engineering. The ancient priests and architects designed this alignment to stage a critical piece of theological theater. The winter solstice marked the shortest, darkest day of the year, a moment when the sun's power was at its weakest. By orchestrating this event where the sun appeared to travel into the deepest heart of the temple to rejuvenate the god, they were symbolically reversing the sun's decline. This ritual ensured the sun's rebirth and the guarantee of its return, longer days, and the continuation of life for the coming year. the entire temple became a cosmic capacitor, capturing the faintest solar energy at its weakest point and amplifying it through ritual to ensure the renewal of the world. Beyond this grand solar alignment, the walls of Karnak hold a more intimate and cunning form of communication. To the casual observer, the millions of hieroglyphs covering every surface appear to be a continuous narrative of military victories and offerings to the gods. But sprinkled throughout this official history are hidden cryptographic inscriptions, a secret language within a language. The priests of Ammon developed a form of coded writing, using rare or unconventional hieroglyphic signs to spell out the name of their supreme god, making it visually distinct and imbuing it with an extra layer of mystical power. For example, they might replace a standard hieroglyph with a complex rebuse, a visual pun where the image of a scorpion might be used not for its meaning but for the sound of its name in Egyptian, which could then be combined with other signs to secretly spell out Ammon. This wasn't done to keep secrets from the people, it was a theological enhancement. By writing the god's name in this unique, complex way, the priests were demonstrating their elite knowledge and performing an act of extreme devotion. It transformed the act of writing into a form of worship, a hidden devotional practice etched into the very fabric of the temple, meant for the eyes of the god and his most learned priests alone. The genius of Karnak's design extends beyond walls and alignments into the very experience of moving through it. The entire complex is a physical recreation of the Egyptian creation myth. The journey from the bright, open sun-baked courtyard toward the dark, enclosed sanctuary was a deliberate spatial metaphor. It retraced the journey from the primordial waters of chaos, known as the Nun, toward the first patch of dry land that emerged at the moment of creation, the Benben Mound. This progression is felt physically. You start in the vast, open space near the sacred lake representing the Nun. You then move through the first pylon, the massive gateway, into the first courtyard. With each subsequent pylon you pass through, the floor level gradually rises, the ceiling slowly lowers, and the light dramatically dims. The space becomes more confined, more exclusive, and more sacred. This carefully engineered pathway culminates in the hypostyle hall. Here, 134 massive columns rise like a petrified forest, their capitals shaped like blooming papyrus and lotus plants. Walking through this hall, overwhelmed by the scale and the dim, dappled light filtering through the stone grills high above, you are meant to feel you are walking through the primordial swamp at the dawn of time, amidst the first lush plants emerging from the waters of creation. The final destination is the sanctuary, a small, windowless, dark chamber housing the cult statue of the god. This was the Benben Mound, the epicenter of all creation. The ritual journey through Karnak was therefore a reenactment of the universe's birth, a way for the pharaoh and the high priests to return to the first moment of order triumphing over chaos, and to tap into that creative power to maintain the cosmic order, or mat, for another day. Every footstep through Karnak was a step through mythic time, turning architecture into the ultimate medium for storytelling and spiritual transformation. Perched high in the Bavarian Alps, Neuschwanstein Castle appears as the very essence of a medieval fairy tale, its white limestone towers and spires piercing the sky. This is the castle that inspired Walt Disney's Sleeping Beauty, a romantic vision of a bygone era. But this iconic silhouette is a masterful illusion, a facade hiding a world of secret messages, technological wizardry, and profound personal tragedy. Its builder, the reclusive King Ludwig II of Bavaria, was not recreating a real past. He was using stone and mortar to construct a physical escape from a reality he could no longer bear, embedding his deepest longings and sorrows into the very walls of his dream palace. The most persistent and poetic hidden message is the swan, a motif that appears in countless forms throughout the castle, carved into woodwork, woven into tapestries, molded into faucets, and shimmering in mosaics. This is far more than a simple decorative theme. It is a direct reference to the romantic opera Lohengrin by Ludwig's idol, the composer Richard Wagner. In the legend, Lohengrin is a knight of the Holy Grail who arrives in a boat pulled by a swan to rescue a doomed princess. He is a celestial savior, but he operates under one sacred rule: no one can ever ask his name or origins. When his identity is finally questioned, he must reveal himself and return to his mystical home, leaving his earthly love behind. For Ludwig, this story was deeply autobiographical. He saw himself as a kind of Lohengrin, a king with a sacred, artistic mission, misunderstood by his pragmatic government and his people. The constant presence of the swan is a silent, sorrowful lament, a message that the king felt his true, noble nature was forbidden from being known, and that any attempt to force him into the mundane role of a constitutional monarch would cause him, like his hero, to vanish from the world he was trying to elevate. Beneath this layer of mythological symbolism lies a startling technological secret. While Neuschwanstein masquerades as a medieval fortress, it was, in fact, one of the most technologically advanced buildings of its time. Ludwig was a king obsessed with modern comforts, and he disguised cutting-edge innovations behind faux historic facades. The castle was equipped with a central heating system that used massive furnaces to push warm air through vents hidden in the ornate wall panels. Running water was supplied to every floor, with a kitchen featuring automatic hot and cold taps. Most astonishingly, the castle had a complete electrical call bell system for summoning servants, and it was wired for telephones. This push for modernity reached its zenith in the Sengersaal, the Singers' Hall. This vast two-story hall, designed for Wagnerian performances, was lit not by torches but by electric arc lights, an incredibly bright and newfangled technology. The king's personal study even had an artificial cave or grotto, a whimsical passageway complete with a dripping waterfall that was electrically illuminated by hidden colored lights to simulate a magical, otherworldly atmosphere. Neuschwanstein is therefore a profound paradox, a building that preaches the gospel of a romanticized past but was brought to life by the very latest science of the 19th century, a palace where knights' tales are told under the glow of electric light. The castle's deepest and most tragic hidden message, however, is found in the one room that should be the heart of any royal residence, the throne room. This is the most opulent and spiritually charged space in the entire castle, a breathtaking two-story hall designed in a lavish Byzantine style, shimmering with gold leaf and deep blue mosaics. It is a staggering architectural achievement, a space that seems to demand a throne of unimaginable splendor. And yet, at the head of the room, atop a majestic flight of marble steps, there is nothing but an empty dais. The throne was never built. This was no oversight or unfinished detail. It was Ludwig's final, most powerful statement. By the time the castle was nearing completion, the king had been stripped of his political power by his own ministers, who declared him mentally unfit to rule. The empty throne is his silent stone rebuttal. It symbolizes his rejection of the earthly, political power he had lost and his embrace of a higher, spiritual sovereignty, the kingdom of art, beauty, and myth that he built for himself. He had no need for a physical throne because his true kingdom was not of this world. It was the realm of the ideal, forever captured in the walls of his alpine retreat. The room, therefore, is not a throne room at all, but a temple to a god that was never crowned, a monument to a king who chose to rule over a dream rather than a country he could no longer recognize. Now we journey from the dreamscape of Neuschwanstein to the immense, ordered heart of imperial China, a city within a city built not as an escape from power but as its ultimate expression. The Forbidden City in Beijing is a masterpiece of symbolic architecture, a sprawling complex where every brick, every color, and every creature was meticulously chosen to broadcast a single, unwavering message. The emperor's authority was a divine, unshakable law of the universe, as permanent and perfect as the cosmos itself. The first and most staggering hidden message is written not on the walls, but in the very scale of the place. The complex is said to contain 9,999.5 rooms. This seemingly random number is one of history's most deliberate acts of mathematical modesty. In Chinese cosmology, the number 10,000 represented infinity, completion, and the ultimate power of the celestial realm, which was the domain of the Jade Emperor in heaven. The earthly emperor, known as the Son of Heaven, was powerful, but he was still a mortal subordinate to the divine. By building his palace with just one-half room less than 10,000, he was making a profound philosophical statement that his earthly rule was vast and immense, approaching perfection, but it would always be one step below the true, infinite perfection of the heavens. This architectural humility was in fact the ultimate boast, a way of claiming near-divine status while still showing the proper respect to the cosmic order. It was a number that perfectly balanced unimaginable power with heavenly sanction, a constant reminder to all who entered that they were in a place that was almost but not quite a paradise on earth. This symbolic language continues in a vibrant, unmistakable color palette that covers the entire city. The dominant colors are a brilliant sunshine yellow and a powerful vermilion red. These were not chosen for mere aesthetic appeal, they were a strict visual code. Yellow was the exclusive color of the emperor. You see it on the glazed tiles of nearly every roof throughout the complex. This color was associated with the center of the universe and the element of earth in the Chinese Wu-Xing system, positioning the emperor as the stable, unmoving core around which all of reality revolved. It was illegal for any commoner or official to use this color in their own homes, making the visual impact of the Forbidden City's sea of yellow roofs a breathtaking and intimidating display of singular authority. The red that paints the walls, columns, and gates is equally significant. In Chinese culture, red is the color of happiness, good fortune, and vitality. But here, on this scale, it represents the immense glowing power and the fierce protective energy of the imperial household. Together, this golden, yellow, and vermilion red scheme created a visual experience of overwhelming warmth, power, and majesty, an environment designed to make any visitor feel both welcomed by its fortune and dwarfed by its authority. Perhaps the most delightful and intricate hidden messages are perched silently along the ridgelines of every important building. Look up at the roofs and you'll see a procession of small glazed ceramic figures led by a man riding a chicken. These are the roof ridge figures, and their type and number are a precise code that reveals the importance of the building beneath them. The procession is always led by an immortal, followed by an odd number of mythical beasts. The number of beasts corresponds directly to the status of the building's purpose and its occupant. A minor hall might have only 3 or 5. The most important structures in the complex, like the Hall of Supreme Harmony where the Emperor held court, have a full lineup of 10. Each creature in this celestial parade has its own specific meaning and protective function. The dragon, for instance, symbolizes imperial power and its ability to bring rain. The phoenix represents the empress and signifies grace and peace. The lion stands for strength and authority. By reading the procession on the roof, a knowledgeable court official could instantly understand the hierarchical significance of any building within the vast, bewildering complex. This transformed the entire skyline of the Forbidden City into a legible map of power, where the very eaves whispered the status of those inside. This rigid order culminates in the complex's layout, which is a physical model of the Chinese cosmic view. The entire city is symmetrically arranged along a perfect north-south axis, with the most important ceremonial halls facing south. This orientation was deeply symbolic. The north was associated with the cold, dark forces and the underworld, while the south was the direction of warmth, life, and benevolent authority. By facing his throne south, the emperor was metaphorically turning his back on the negative forces and embracing his role as the bringer of light and order to his people. The arrangement of buildings, courtyards, and gates was designed to slowly build a sense of awe and anticipation as one moved from the public outer courts toward the private inner courts, a journey from the profane to the profoundly sacred. Every step deeper into the Forbidden City was a step closer to the axis of the universe, a meticulously choreographed experience that used space, color, and number to reinforce the idea that the Emperor's will was the organizing principle of all existence. Carved into the sacred Black Hills of South Dakota, Mount Rushmore presents a familiar facade of American pride, a monument to 4 presidents whose visages gaze sternly across the land. But this iconic image is merely the surface of a far more complex and unfinished vision, one that holds secrets in both its stone and its startling omissions. The most astonishing of these is a hidden chamber, a room bored into the granite directly behind the head of Abraham Lincoln. This was the brainchild of the sculptor Gutzon Borglum, who envisioned it not as a simple cavity but as a grand hall of records. His plan was to create a secure, vault-like repository that would preserve the most important documents of American history, things like the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence, for thousands of years, ensuring that even if civilization collapsed, the story and the ideals of the nation would not be lost. He began excavating this chamber in 1938, carving a 70-foot-long tunnel into the mountain. However, Congress withdrew funding for the project in 1941, demanding the sculptor focus entirely on completing the faces. The entrance was sealed with a massive 1,200-pound granite capstone, leaving the hall forever unfinished and inaccessible, a timeless time capsule whose intended message remains locked away in the dark. Beyond this concealed vault, the monument communicates through a more visible but equally deliberate language, the precise direction of the president's gazes. Each one was carefully oriented by Borglum to align with significant celestial events, connecting their earthly legacy to the eternal cycles of the heavens. George Washington's face is turned to catch the first light of the dawn, a symbolic nod to his role as the father of the new nation emerging into the light of freedom. Thomas Jefferson, the author of the Declaration of Independence and a man of the Enlightenment with a deep passion for science and astronomy, looks toward the horizon where the sun sets, a fitting alignment for a visionary who looked toward a future of expansion and reason. Perhaps the most poignant alignment belongs to Abraham Lincoln. His gaze is fixed almost due east, bathed in the full light of the rising sun for the majority of the day. This was intended to symbolize the dawn of a new era of unity and emancipation that followed the darkness of the Civil War, his stony eyes forever watching over a nation he fought to preserve and make more perfect. The 4 faces we know today are actually a truncated version of Borglum's original, far more ambitious design. His initial plan called for the presidents to be depicted not as busts but down to the waist, complete with significant symbolic elements that would have provided context and grandeur. In this fuller conception, George Washington's figure would have been shown with his right hand resting on the hilt of his sword, while his left hand would be holding the lapel of his coat in a gesture of dignified resolve. Thomas Jefferson was designed to be holding the Declaration of Independence, the document itself rendered in stone, clutched close to his body. Theodore Roosevelt's likeness was intended to include his iconic pince-nez glasses, a detail that would have added a layer of personal character and modernity to his portrayal. Most dramatically, Abraham Lincoln was planned to have his iconic beard fully sculpted, and his arms were to be crossed in a pose of firm determination. This complete design would have transformed the monument from a series of portraits into a powerful narrative sculpture, where the attributes held by each president would have visually articulated their contributions and characters. The shift to focus solely on the faces was a practical decision driven by time, budget, and ultimately the death of Borglum in 1941, just months before the project was declared complete. This incompleteness is itself a hidden message, one that is deeply intertwined with the mountain's deep spiritual significance to the Lakota Sioux people, for whom the Black Hills are a sacred site known as Paha Sapa. The creation of the monument on this land, which was guaranteed to the Lakota by the Treaty of 1868, only to be seized by the federal government after gold was discovered, casts a long shadow over the patriotic celebration. In direct response to this act of cultural appropriation, and just 17 miles away, the Lakota are themselves carving a far larger and more spiritually significant monument, the Crazy Horse Memorial. This ongoing project, which will depict the Oglala Lakota leader riding a horse and pointing toward his ancestral land, is being funded entirely by private donations and has deliberately rejected federal funding. It stands as a powerful counter-narrative to Mount Rushmore, a testament to the resilience and pride of the indigenous peoples whose history is literally overshadowed by the four presidents. The true hidden message of Mount Rushmore, therefore, is not found in a single chamber or alignment, but in this unresolved dialogue between stone and spirit, between a nation's celebrated past and the complex, often painful history that underpins it. It is a monument that speaks as much through what was left unfinished and what was never intended as it does through the iconic faces that define it. And so our journey ends, but the conversation is far from over. From the pyramids of Giza to the dreamscape of Neuschwanstein, these 25 monuments have revealed a stunning truth. Our ancestors were not just building for their time, but for all time. They encoded their deepest knowledge into stone, embedding messages of mathematical precision, astronomical wisdom, and profound spiritual belief, creating a bridge across the centuries meant for us to discover. They used the language of celestial alignments, the poetry of sacred geometry, and the narrative of symbolic art to speak to the future, ensuring their understanding of the universe, their fears, their triumphs, and their devotion would never be silenced by the passing of ages. Why go to such extraordinary lengths? The motivations are as layered as the monuments themselves. For some, it was an act of divine homage, a way to align their earthly realm with the perceived perfection of the cosmos, to please the gods and ensure cosmic order. For others, it was a display of ultimate power, using impossible engineering and esoteric knowledge to legitimize their rule and showcase their authority over both nature and people. And for many, it was a profound act of legacy, a deep-seated human desire to shout into the future, "We were here, we understood, remember us." They hid these messages not to obscure, but to preserve, knowing that only a society advanced enough to decipher their codes would be worthy of receiving their wisdom. This changes everything about how we see these silent sentinels of history. They are not static relics to be merely photographed, they are dynamic puzzles waiting to be read. The next time you stand before an ancient structure, I encourage you to look closer. Ask new questions, look beyond the obvious grandeur and seek the subtle details, the unusual alignment of a doorway, the specific choice of materials, the recurring symbols carved in shadowed corners. Question the orientation of a building, the patterns in its flooring, the acoustics of its chambers. You are now armed with a new lens, a decoder ring for the ages. The greatest mystery is that our list is merely a beginning. Countless secrets remain buried, hidden in plain sight, waiting for the curious eye to find them. So I turn it over to you. Which of these hidden messages resonated most deeply? Was it the celestial clockwork of the Pantheon's oculus, the heartbreaking empty throne of Neuschwanstein, or perhaps the watery, starlit underworld beneath the Pyramid of the Sun? Share your thoughts in the comments below and tell me which monument's secrets you found most fascinating. The dialogue between the past and the present continues with